ドジャースの大谷翔平選手が日本時間17日、投手として663日ぶりの実戦復帰を果たしました。初回に28球を投げ、最速は 100.2 マイル、約161キロを記録。1回2安打1失点という内容でした。また、打者としても4打数2安打2打点と活躍し、チームの3連勝に貢献しました。人気ポッドキャスト番組、リッチ・アイゼンショーのホストであり、ヤンキースファンとしても知られるリッチ・アイゼン氏は、この登板をドジャースがリハビリ登板として扱っているように見えたと皮肉交じりに指摘しました。しかし同時に、投打両面でチームに貢献している。彼はやはり異次元の存在と高く評価。さらに、我々は今異常なレベルの才能を目撃しているということを理解しなければならないと語りました。また、スポーツネット LA で実況を務め、現役時代にはドジャースでサイ・ヤング賞を受賞したオーレル・ハーシュハイザー氏も、大谷選手の登板について称賛の言葉を述べています。ハーシュハイザー氏は、健康であれば、20勝投手も十分に可能性がある、と語り、フル稼働すれば圧倒的な成績を残せるポテンシャルがあることを強調しました。これらの大谷翔平選手に関するトーク内容を、日本語字幕付きでご紹介します。
And here they are leading the National League West going into last night's game over the Giants by a game and a half and over the Padres by 3 and treating this Monday night game on June 16th as if it is a rehab start night. You know what I mean? Like, they go into the game saying, let's start Ohtani. First time, let's pitch Ohtani's first time as a Dodger. And let's do it for just an inning. Because, simulated games are one thing and real life baseball is another. Normally, you'd just send the pitcher down to the minors to do a rehab stint or 2 or 3 there, build up arm strength there. But when you've got one of the best hitters in the history of the game in the same person, you can't do that. They're not going to take Shohei Ohtani out of the lineup and say, go to Rancho Cucamonga for a week and a half.
I'm sure it's lovely.
It's you took the wrong turn at Albuquerque, like Bugs Bunny. Hey, let's just start them against the Padres. You got a 3-game lead, right? There's room to play with here. We just won a championship last year. I mean, Ohtani's not taking his salary for another decade and a half. Like, what else are we gonna do?
It's so it sounds so disrespectful.
Here he is throwing 28 pitches to start this clear bullpen game. The Dodgers are treating this game against a bitter rival in a tight contest in their division as a rehab start game. And the Dodgers wind up using 7 relievers in all and beat the Padres anyway, and now have a 4-game lead on them and 2.5 on the Giants. And Ohtani having 28 more pitches of live action under his belt as he comes back to be the 2-way star that they paid him all that money to be. 2 for 4 on a night where he gets 28 pitches under his belt against the Padres, who lose anyway. And he's healthy. He touched 100 at one point. Let me just think of this again. I know you're saying don't do it, whatever. I don't want to really get into that because he's going to do it. He's going to keep doing it. He's going to keep doing it again. Certainly with Blake Snell out and, their whole...
Yeah, waiting for Glasnow to come back.
Yeah. I mean, it's been 2 years now, right? And Kershaw is beginning to return to form, okay? Shohei Ohtani's going to pitch and he's going to hit. But we just got to sometimes just stop and understand what we're seeing. We are seeing one of the greatest hitters in the history of the game start a game and touch 100 miles an hour in this game in Major League Baseball. And he's also a 50 stolen base guy, too. Truly, one of the greatest, what would you say, 6-tool players ever.
Six tool. He's the greatest six tool.
Right, the greatest six tool because he, the Bambino wasn't stealing bases, right?
Right.
Unless we're talking tools figuratively, right? For the bam.
Funny visual.
Right? I mean, seriously, guy was drilling back in the day. Listen,
nobody's done what we've seen Shohei Ohtani do.
And it's just happening again last night.
At this level.
It's just happening again last night, and it's the Dodgers getting it now. Rich getting richer.
Yeah, it seems super fun being a Dodger fan.
How you feeling, Oral?
I'm doing great.
So what'd you think of it last night? Chris was just kind of teasing me there a little bit about how excited I was to see Ohtani. I don't know if I've ever been to a game in the middle of the week, in the middle of June, where it felt like it did last night in the ballpark at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, Ohtani, so what did he do? Just kidding. The hits were awesome. I was glad that he pitched and still got some hits because that bat is, so important to the team. But as far as the pitching, I think, you see the stuff. You saw the command was slightly off at times. You saw the check swing from Machado that probably could have bailed him out of the inning where he didn't give up a run and would have protected his pitch count. So I think all in all, it was a really successful night as far as the arm was concerned and the pitching. And, of course, through this whole thing, all the way through the end of this season, it's going to completely be about how does he feel the next day. We're going to talk about the performance. We're going to cheer the performance. We're going to be on the edge of our seat watching the best two-way player ever and maybe one of the best players ever to put on a uniform. But it's all going to be about the future as far as how does he feel the next day.
Earl, we were talking earlier in the show, we were thinking about his mechanics. And after you have the second Tommy John, does there need to be some kind of change to reduce the extension and like the load on the elbow and how that impacts velocity, how that impacts spin rate, and just the angle? Can you get technical a little bit with just what you know about the arm, like what he goes through, and then what you saw from the actual product and like the ball coming off of his arm, off of his fingers?
Well, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And the ligament is one of the weaker links in the body, no matter who you are, if you're Ohtani or you're somebody else, a kid, 12-year-old kid. And the stress on the elbow is going to be a lot, no matter what arm angle you're throwing. But your mechanics do help that, stabilize it, put less stress on it. Having a little more weight helps because ground force production helps. I thought his mechanics looked great, but you can't move something. When you break a Ferrari, right? It breaks quicker because it's going at 160 miles an hour for some reason, or 200 miles an hour. And when you're a St. Bernard and you're just kind of trotting along, you're not breaking anything because when you're slightly out of whack, there's not enough pressure on the areas to hurt you. So it's really hard to throw 98 to 102 miles an hour and have every weakest link stay strong and be perfect and not get hurt. You can analyze till the cows come home, and we have elbow surgeries all over baseball, from Little League all the way up to the big leagues, and then to guys that are young in the big leagues, to guys who are old in the big leagues, to guys who have had them once, twice, and three times. And it's just pitching is not completely a very easy thing to do, and it causes stress in certain areas, and we know probably the number one stress has been on the elbow and on the shoulder.
Oral Hershiser joining us here. We're talking about Shohei Ohtani's Dodger debut on the mound yesterday. And Oral, even somebody that's pitched as much as Ohtani has and pitched at a really high level the way that he has, and obviously he can strike guys out, is that kind of the last thing to come back when you're coming back from a long layoff? It's the first time he'd pitch in 663 days. That ability to finish hitters off, because we saw him I think he got to a full count in 5 of the 6 guys that he faced, but Machado the check swing, but he wasn't able to punch a guy out. Is that just a little bit of rust that will eventually go away and he'll look like Ohtani all over again when it comes to finishing?
Yeah, I mean, that's your analyzing result instead of execution, right?
Yeah.
So the execution is my execution fine enough to look like a strike, end up a ball, and get a chase? Is my execution great enough to have the ball either go at a certain velocity in a perfect location in the strike zone to strike a guy out looking, or is it good enough stuff to have good movement and velocity in the strike zone and get a swing and a miss? So, no, it's all about execution. And yeah, is it different when you first come back? Oh, it's way different. And he's held to such high standards. Like, he's supposed to walk on water the first day he goes out there, and when he pitches on the mound, there'll be no holes when he leaves it. It'll just be perfectly manicured still. It's like, no, he's not Jesus of pitching. But it's amazing that, he can go out there and do what he's doing. And this is a long-term calculation to make sure that he's available in the most important innings of the year, which are probably going to be in September and October. And so this whole schedule, as far as could he have pitched sooner? Oh, I think he could have pitched last year. But his bat is so valuable. And when we were talking about stresses, like Mike asked me to get technical, the stress of pitching and the stress of hitting and the stress of practicing pitching and the stress of practicing hitting and the stress of working out as a pitcher with those movements and working out as a hitter for those movements. He's compounding the equation as far as the risk. And so then we know that when healthy, he is an MVP hitter, DH, and probably could play the field in a most amazing place. He's got the right fielder's arm. He's got the height and eye-hand coordination and glove work for a first baseman. He probably could play third. He probably could play short like Cal Ripken. He could probably play any position, except you wouldn't want to put him behind the plate and add to the risk. So it's the bar's so high for him that we expect him to go out there and just immediately be amazing. But this is all about the calculation. Because he is so good and can impact a possible world championship, it has to be calculated to the point to put him in the most important innings and the most important at-bats and be healthy.
I was feeling a little bit for him as you were describing all the stuff that he has to do, just thinking not as much time for ping pong or, like watching shows or just kind of hanging out. What he's doing, he's breaking down everything. I do want to ask you one more question about pitching, though, Earl. Just thinking about in your day, right, a lot of starters, especially a great one like you, or you're thinking of a Greg Maddux, who are going, expecting to go 7 to 9 innings a game. Like, is there any difference in an expectation for Shohei where a lot of pitchers now, you don't even want to have them see the same hitter 3 times, especially if you have the bullpen like the Dodgers are going to have with the arms back? Like, how do you think that goes into the future? Does the second Tommy John impact it? What about the innings count and kind of what the expectation should be for Shohei to be optimized as a pitcher moving forward?
Yeah, I think there's some abstract numbers out there as far as how many innings, how many pitches. But again, it's going to come back to how does he feel? Because if he comes out of an outing, let's say he gets up to, let's say, 3 innings and 60 pitches for some reason, and he comes out of it and he's just okay, and he's got a little tenderness, and it's normal pitcher tenderness, but you want him to be DH because it's a big series. Now you're making a calculation according to the bat and the body and the pitch count, and then you're getting through that, which is the next few at-bats and the next few days as a DH. If it's 3 days, 5 days with an off day, you're getting through the workouts, you're getting through the chiropractics to make sure he's balanced, you're getting through the massage therapy, you're getting through all the different things, the cardio, and at every point you're evaluating. Back in my day, we evaluated everything. It was being charted. It is charted and evaluated at a much higher level now, but it is a constant maintenance, constant how do you feel, constant this is what. But the conclusion or the thing that has changed from my generation to this generation is the configuration of the roster and the configuration of what you're expected to do according to game theory. And game theory is the starting pitcher is probably worse than the worst pitcher on your team third time around the order. The starting pitcher then is called on to train for 5 or 6 innings, because that's approximately when the third guys are going to come around. And so now the roster's been expanded to 13 pitchers. In my day, it was 10. You've got 3 extra guys to cover those innings. Those guys are not responsible for 2 to 4 innings or 3 to 5 times a week to be out there. They're responsible for 1 inning or a few batters, and then the inning changes and they don't have to go back out there for the third batter. So the whole equation of what you're called on to do and then what you train to do is completely different. And it's all about game theory and roster configuration and how the game is played. And so Shohei and the other pitchers, but Shohei in particular, is being called on to do these things, and they are monitoring it as we go. But the top end is going to be 5 or 6 innings, and it might not be for him because of coming back from a second Tommy John, because of a late start, because you want him to stay healthy all through the whole year, and because he's a DH MVP that you won a world championship with.
Oral,
yeah.
thanks for coming on. I got one more quick one for you before I let you go.
Yeah,
And what makes Shohei is that he does both things, and he does them both at a high level. We saw what him fully committed to a season of offense would look like. It was 50-50. It was an MVP. What would a season fully committed to pitching look like? Assuming full health, assuming him sharp, what does that look like?
Well, so we've downgraded the value of a W, right? A win. Not when the team wins, but the contribution to a win is more important than getting the W next to your name. But I think he would go deep into games and have an opportunity to win 20 games. Not that winning 20 games is the ultimate to say you had an amazing season. Nowadays, 15 wins, 13 wins can be an amazing season because of all your peripherals of how you helped your team win. And maybe your offense just didn't get the runs early enough, and the Dodgers are the best comeback team in all of baseball. So a lot of the wins come from the 7th inning on, and even the 6th inning on. And I got another one for you if you got time.
Yeah.
But so with him, I would say an ERA under 3 would be very easy if he was full strength, and I would even think that you could have an ERA under 2.5 from him full strength and locked and loaded, only being a pitcher. I think that, the innings total could be over 200, which is a line of demarcation now where it used to be 300, but it's only about opportunity, not about ability, that they don't get there. And I think that, over a strikeout an inning for sure, and a walk rate, because his mechanics are going to be as meticulous as Yamamoto's and some others, like a Greg Maddux. I think the walk rate would be, his strikeout to walk rate would be somewhere in the 5-1 to 6-1 possibly. And he would dominate. He would completely dominate. And, the only thing you'd worry about is, how do you feel tomorrow?
Right.
How do you feel tomorrow, big guy?
Yeah,
Because,
well.
It's Roger Clemens. It's a power pitcher with an unbelievable breaking ball that has pristine mechanics and would have unbelievable location.
Right.
But the one thing going into the night, my second thing that popped in my head, because we're talking about workload and pitchers, is that when the Dodger bullpen, which is a bullpen game tonight, when the Dodger bullpen pitches less than 4 innings, their ERA is over 4.5. When their bullpen pitches more than 4 innings, their ERA is just over 3.5. And when the bullpen takes down 7 or more innings, their ERA is 2.5.
Crazy.
So don't worry if you're a fan and you go out there and you go, it's a bullpen game, or the bullpen came in early. They perform better when they come in earlier and take down more innings. And the reason is then the deployment is better to the better pitchers. And the deployment is at a rate of, we must be winning. So it's a much better thing when Dave Roberts and Mark Pryor and Andrew Friedman up top and the guys up top can plan out a game against a lineup with the arms that they have and go out there and you see a different name all the time, but don't sit there and worry about them. Think about wow, what a bullpen.
We got a glimpse of it for the first time in a Dodger uniform last night. Shohei Ohtani on the mound. Oral Hershiser is headed to New York for Fanatics Fest. Oral, always great to catch up with you. Thanks so much.